Hey, welcome to the Roundabout cast where Joe leads us out with a Cowboy Bebop theme song.
Huh, good one, Willer. We're not the Roundabout cast. We're actually the Breaking Bad podcast.
Ooh, see
Breaking
you've been
Outcast.
sitting on that one for a little bit, but actually, good one, Bradley. We're actually the Roundabout podcast.
Okay, you got me this
Oh, I
time.
fucking got you. Can't slip one past me. I'm your host Willer, who's very tired tonight.
I am co-assistant head grand poobah host Bradley.
I am a secondary schedule maker and content creator, Joe.
Yep. I like your titles. That needs to be your new gimmick, not this dumb podcast shit.
Why can't we do both?
Because you guys are bad at one and good at the other.
Hey.
Okay. Let's get into it. Joe, why don't you lead us off? You have something you want to say to the people.
Yeah, man. You're all wonderful people. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
That's all I need to say.
All right,
to be
Bradley,
here.
what's our hypothetical for the week?
Uh,
No, stop. Wait, Joe.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about comedians in cars getting coffee because it's probably one of my favorite Netflix series that comes out every year. And it's a very comforting series. I say comforting. It's a very insightful series. I think it's well edited, well made. And it's a great glimpse into the life of different comedians and celebrities, and really gets you an idea of and it really humanizes them.
So, is this all comedians? Like you said, celebrities. There is it always comedians? In the
Not
car?
not all of them are comedians. Sometimes they're just people that Jerry thinks is very funny, and they bring him onto the show. Like he's brought in producers or television supervisors to that he's worked with to just sit down and discuss what their lives are, what their thought processes are. The big thing that I really like about this show, actually, one of their special guests was Barack Obama when he was president.
Ooh,
damn.
that's a good get.
Yeah. But so the gimmick of this show is very simple. Jerry Seinfeld is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, comedian of all time in the history of comedy.
What's the deal with coffee and cars?
Yes. But Jerry Seinfeld, so he's like a master of his craft. He knows everything about comedy, but he also knows everything about cars, basically. He has a huge
Really?
car collection. Yes, and he just knows a lot of people with cars and just knows them inside and out. So the big gimmick is that the show opens up with a car that he has personally chosen, and he uses that car as a representation of the comedian or special guest that he's taking out for coffee that day.
That's interesting, actually. I
Yeah.
had no idea there was that element to the show.
And he's really good at it. And if he brings back special guests, if he brings back guests, he'll get them a different car and say this car is reflective of this side of their personality and what it means. And he goes into detail and he goes into the history of the car and how that relates to that comedian, and it's a really good way of just providing some sort of physical it's a weird way because it's able to humanize this comedian or the special or the celebrity right off the bat, but he does it by comparing them to an inanimate object, which is very ironic, I think.
I feel like it speaks to, I guess, how much thought he's putting into the show, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and this show I think is a very quality show. It's got wonderful editing. It knows its pacing, it knows how long it needs to go, and it really does give you snippets of the conversation that they have. And a lot of it is just kind of driving shots and them talking in the car, but they do provide some good insights as to what it's like to be a comedian, and when they were if he talks to older comedians, they talk about when they were growing up and when they were first starting out and what that struggle was. And when he talks to newer comedians, he talks to John Mulaney or some of the new SNL cast, they talk about where they are, where they were previously, and what their kind of goals are and where they want to go from here, and what their process is and how they're feeling about where their career is going.
Joe, is Jerry Seinfeld a likable person? Because, I mean, aside from being a god of comedy with Seinfeld, I've seen clips of him just seeming like an old man yelling at clouds.
He can be in this show.
I feel
think-
like if you called him an unlikable person to his face, he would not disagree with you. In fact, I think people have, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
See,
But I don't know if that makes it any better.
I'm not sure it does, but Um, this sounds cool.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like Jerry. The one thing about Jerry Seinfeld though is that in this show he really knows how to turn his charisma on and be very charismatic, and he's a very good host, and he's very willing to let everyone talk, especially when it's someone that he's not really personally close with, like John Mulaney. I think is one of them for sure. That he more or less did an interview with him rather than like personally sit down and talk to him. But there are others where he's just having like a straight conversation with people. Like one of them, he brings on Kramer from
Right.
Seinfeld, which is one of the best episodes because it's so funny. Just everything that happens because it plays out like a Seinfeld episode, like unintentionally. Uh, but they have a nice heart to heart, like talking about Kramer's like downfall and the one event that kind of like spiraled his career out of control, and they have a nice discussion about like what it means to be a celebrity and stuff. Um, but I think I really like this show. Each section is really short. Episodes can vary between 12 minutes to 40 minutes, and sometimes there are two-part episodes.
Cool.
But I feel like one thing I got from the show for sure is that Jerry Seinfeld knows comedy inside and out, and like even if you haven't like watched his a lot of Seinfeld or any of his other stuff, like just listening to him, you can tell like how naturally funny he is and how he's able to just like go back and forth with these people constantly, regardless of like what their actual like comedic like angles are. He's always able to just bounce off of someone else across from him.
Joe, I got some important questions for you.
Yeah.
First of all, just list off some of your favorite guests on the show.
The John Mulaney one, because I'm just a big fan of him. The Barack Obama one was also a cool one because he talks about like having like being in a higher position but still maintaining like being a person and how difficult that is. The Kramer one is great, not only because it's funny, because it's like you're seeing two friends, old friends, like meeting up for the first time in a long time and discussing where their lives are. Uh, Eddie Murphy, which was in this recent one, was
Damn.
really good too. Like you like Eddie, you can tell like when he talks to him, you realize that Eddie Murphy, whenever he did his bits, was really just a character that he was playing. And when he talks to Jerry, you can tell like he can turn it off, and he's a lot more down to earth and just talking about his life. Joaquin Phoenix is also one of the guests in the recent ones. That was a really good one too. Uh,
How many episodes and seasons are there, if you know?
there are, I think there are 6 seasons, and I believe they are 12 episodes each.
Oh, that's a lot of people.
I
Okay.
use them just as like podcasts mainly. I just put them
Yeah.
on to the side and listen to them.
I mean, they're just driving around, so that seems perfect.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the kind of show where it's kind of equally fun to actively watch or have on in the background.
Bradley,
Yeah.
you've watched this?
Yeah, I've seen most of season one kind of back when it was first coming out, just because I had been watching a lot of Curb Your Enthusiasm and Seinfeld, and what does Jerry do besides stand up nowadays? And I googled it, and I was like, oh my god, there's this show coming out. So it is very entertaining. I haven't really caught up with it, but
Do you have any
every
favorite
episode,
episodes among the ones you watched?
not particularly. But I would say, kind of like Joe, it really is. Um, it's really good as a podcast, but it's also just good as a show.
Yeah.
All right, final question. This one's for the all the cookies. You've talked about the cars. You've talked about the comedians. Where does the coffee fit in, Joe?
They go and get coffee, but it's more or less just like a general idea of what they're doing. They do several other activities too every once in a while. Like might go get dinner, or not dinner, but like they might get like a brunch or something. I've seen them go to like a museum and walk around the museum. They talk about the museum and make jokes off the museum stuff, or go through
Ooh.
parks, or they'll go to like old comedy clubs they used to perform at and talk about their when they performed there and what it was like to perform there. Like the one with Eddie Murphy, they talk about how Eddie Murphy and Jerry Seinfeld, when they first started, they were in the same ticket of like of comedians on in like a specific club by just pure coincidence. They didn't even realize who each other were, but like literally Jerry went and then Eddie Murphy went.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a little bummed out that the coffee is kind of a lie, but you know what? Everything else seems great.
Yeah. I really like the show. If you have Netflix and you're not watching it, I think you should give it a whirl.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, if it's just you put it on while you're working or while you're playing game. I play it whenever I'm doing like Civ or something. I'll put it on because I know like I'll just sit there for hours playing that game, and I can sit there listening to them for hours. So it's great.
Good deal.
Yeah, go watch it, nerds.
Yeah.
Once again, Joe threatening people to watch things. Maybe if I threaten people, Bradley would do all the things. If I just threaten him with violence, like Joe does.